All right, mates, a little river update. Upper Potomac today. Obviously, you guys have been familiar with what's been happening with the rain coming up from up north and coming down. You've got Edwards Ferries up about 3 feet today. Point of Rocks is probably up about another 2 or 3 feet. And then down in the section below, let me give you a little show what happens, okay? Because it's a flatter section. And just literally 3 days ago, the Smallies were stacked up right in this area, closer to the bank, about 20 yards really from the bank. It's a cut, it's a little island on the up. And man, this has just completely blown them out. They have scattered all over and are no longer really present, give or take a few dinks, in a section where just 3 days ago, people were catching 20, 30, and 40 smallmouth. So I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to give you an idea what we're looking at right here with the rising water levels in this section of the Upper Potomac. You can see that cut that's coming right down through here. This is up about 2.5 feet than normal. There's usually rocks all right in here. That actual tree was brought down in the last 2 days. Same as that tree right there. It was not there on Friday. So it's been coming down, and you can see here, you've got the birds all hanging out in the middle of the river and the few rocks that are left with this rising water. It is continuing to rise. And will likely continue to rise for the next 2 days before it begins to settle back in. It's pretty crazy how quickly things can change here. We didn't really get that much rain. We got a little bit of rain Friday night and Saturday night, relative to everybody else. But, upriver from here all the way up to Harper's Ferry and beyond, clearly they got a lot more rain than we got, which ultimately impacts the fishery. Friday and into today, really, it's been a spinnerbait bite because the water's really been rising a little bit. And one of the spinnerbaits, mates, that I use, if you can find or get one of your custom spinnerbait makers to paint the blades for you and locate the this color skirt, is a phenomenal pattern. Is this right here. Dirty water, dirtiest water compared to normal. Anything your darker color spinnerbaits in this level, smaller. I love that offset hook on this. It kind of rises up at about a 20 to 25 degree angle. Shorter to the head. But just spinnerbaits like that and that rising water. The water has actually maintained its temperature. It's got a little bit of chill to it. Not much, like 40, 43, 44, I think. I know some guys have reported some sections where it was 42 degrees, but for the most part in here, it's been about 43, 44 for the last 2 days. So we'll see if we get any of that little bit of, a change, any kind of drastic change in the water temp. Really been trying to look for, we want to get those water temps up above 50, but it looks like with the weather that we got, we're not going to get out of the 50s this week until maybe Friday. Then it's only going to be 1 day again. And then we're going to be back to evidently some more colder weather heading into April. And so that, even though we've had this mild winter, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think the Smallies are getting triggered in a couple different directions based on what we've seen over the last week with them being scattered everywhere. There were Smallies in the middle of the river, rocks off rocks and thermals in the middle of the river, and then there were Smallies hugging closer to these islands, like that island right there that runs up about 45 yards, and then up in here in these cuts, where they come in through these cuts and into these other areas where it's basically normally a little bit less moving water, but near that main moving water right in there. It's kind of exasperated with the higher water levels that we're experiencing now, so you can't really see that. But normally, this area right here isn't really whitewater ripples. It's just a little bit of current, and those Smallies like to get back up in there and then wait and ambush everything coming down from the old dam. Okay, and so it just becomes a really great ambush site. a lot of times during the year. So going to be interesting. It's just a quick update from, again, the upper Potomac after the last 2 days of rain up north and how it's directly impacted the water levels. You can check those water levels out at NOAA, NOAA, and just do a Google search for where you want to look. I usually check out Edwards Ferry, Point of Rocks, Millville on the Shenandoah, and all the way up, and it always kind of gives me an indication of what's going to happen downriver, all the way down from there towards Little Falls, depending on where I want to go. It gives me kind of a 24 to 48 hour heads up as to what's really going to happen to where I'm going to be fishing based on what they're experiencing with their water levels, their water temps, and all of those things. All right, mates.